What's going on, everyone? It's Steven here from the First Read Fantasy Football Podcast, and today I've got a Superflex mock draft for you guys. Let's get it. Alright everyone, just a couple housekeeping things before we get started. Go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. It helps us out a ton. Also check out the podcast. We're on Google, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. We are there. Also check us out on social media, on Twitter at FirstReadPod and on Instagram at FirstReadFantasyPodcast. Go ahead and message us, comment on things. We'd love to engage and talk with you guys. If you have questions, let us know. Happy to answer them. Comment on the video. Let us know what you're thinking. All right, so this draft, we are doing a 12-team PPR Superflex draft. And if you don't know what Superflex is, it's an extra flex position, but it's super because you could start a quarterback. And so a lot of times what that turns into is essentially a 2-quarterback league because quarterbacks score quite a bit more points on average than the other position. So it's really hard for your like fourth wide receiver to be comparable to just really an average run-of-the-mill quarterback, because your like bad quarterbacks are still probably scoring 15, 16 points, and that's pretty good for a wide receiver. So let's go ahead. Let's get this thing started. I am picking out of the 4th spot here. As you can see. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how this draft starts off. Sometimes it's, Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook and these elite running backs go off quickly. Sometimes it's the quarterbacks. We'll see what we are left with here towards the beginning of the draft. Let's go ahead and start it. All right, and in a big surprise, we've got Josh Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. Now this is a pretty weird start. Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, that's fine. I think they get picked in the top 3 spots plenty often. It's really the running backs after them that don't get selected as much, and that I don't love picking too early in a super flex draft, because I see them in kind of a tier by themselves where I know how big of a difference those 2 players are going to make for my team, so I'm willing to spend up on them. But then after that, I kind of want to get an elite quarterback if I can. So I'm feeling pretty great here in the 4th spot, able to grab Patrick Mahomes, which is what I'm going to do. He's actually my quarterback 1 in my rankings, and I know it's pretty chalk, and it's possible that he doesn't do it, but it's really hard to pass up on quarterback that we know is, and I believe is the best in the league, along with the best offensive play caller in the league. It's hard to pass that up. So after I pick Patrick Mahomes there with the 4th pick, Kyler Murray goes off the board, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Lamar Jackson, Jonathan Taylor, Dak Prescott, Tyreek Hill, Ezekiel Elliott, Travis Kelce, Nick Chubb, Devontae Adams, Justin Herbert, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Darren Waller. So we are here in the 2nd, and it's going to be a tough choice here. So usually I'm looking running back here, and I would have loved for Austin Eckler or Aaron Jones to fall to me in the 2nd round, and I get to start with them as my running back 1. I'd feel a lot better, but I really don't mind the options here. So I'm pretty much between Antonio Gibson and taking another quarterback, to be honest. I'm considering somebody like an Aaron Rodgers, maybe a Tom Brady, but Tom usually falls. I might be able to get him in the 3rd. I could probably get him in my 3rd round pick, but I might even be able to get him later. It's not crazy to think that. So it's pretty much between Antonio Gibson and Aaron Rodgers, but I think I'm going to go ahead. I like Russ okay. I guess I'm just a little bit lower on him, less excited about what he's going to do this season. I'm going to take Antonio Gibson and shore up my running back 1. He's my 12th ranked running back on the season, probably 11th now with the DeAndre Swift injury news and all of that stuff kind of rumbling around. Not super sure how to feel about him. So, okay, took Antonio Gibson there. In the second, after that, Stephon Diggs, Najee Harris, DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Russell Wilson. So, like I said, this is a full PPR league. I've got Calvin Ridley there. He's my wide receiver 4. That's really tempting. George Kittle's a possibility. I don't mind getting those elite tight ends kind of early, but I don't know how I would feel not having depth at running back or wide receiver at this point. I feel pretty risky. Aaron Rodgers is still a possibility here. So it kind of just depends what I'm thinking. I think I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Calvin Ridley, and we're going to kind of see how this plays out. I'm hoping that I can get somebody like another quarterback later on as my QB2, but we'll go ahead and kind of see how it shakes out. So I took Calvin Ridley. A.J. Brown goes, Kyle Pitts, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Hopkins, DeAndre Swift, George Kittle, Joe Mixon, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, Keenan Allen, Jalen Hurts, Allen Robinson, David Montgomery. Would have loved to have him fall. Chris Carson, Josh Jacobs. And this is probably going to be the toughest pick I make. I love Terry McLaurin. I have him ranked as a top 10 wide receiver, so would love to grab him here. But I'm also looking at a couple quarterbacks that I really like at this point. We've got Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, CeeDee Lamb is still there. I have him as a top 12 wide receiver as well. Because I love the wide receivers that are left, I feel like I need to go ahead and take one of these quarterbacks here while I can. So I'm going to take Tom Brady. I have Tom ranked a little bit higher than Ryan Tannehill, just based on the weapons there, the way that they like to throw the ball, and then I'm just going to hope. And it worked out pretty well for me with the wide receivers that fell. But I also need to be thinking about running back here. So I took Tom Brady. Love him. I think he's going to have an elite season again. I think he's going to be amazing. So Tom Brady at the 4-9. Ryan Tannehill goes at 4-10. Terry McLaurin, Trevor Lawrence, and Amari Cooper on the turn. TJ Hawkinson, Chris Godwin, and I am left here. CeeDee Lamb is on the board, and that's almost impossible for me to pass up at this point. I feel pretty worried not having a second running back. I won't lie about that. Darrell Henderson is available. I like him decently. Man, this one's tough. Who do I think could fall? I think Chase Edmonds could get back to me, and I'd feel pretty okay. Yeah, let's go ahead. I can't pass up this value on CeeDee Lamb. So I'm feeling great at wide receiver and at quarterback, and it's running back where I'm going to be a little up against it, and so we'll kind of have to see if somebody falls to me. Took CeeDee Lamb, Mike Evans went, Darrell Henderson, Mark Andrews, Miles Sanders, Tyler Lockett, Jamar Chase, DJ Moore, Kareem Hunt, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Julio Jones, Myles Gaskin, Matt Ryan, Robert Woods, Baker Mayfield, and Kenny Galladay. And I have received a gift here in the 6th round late. I get to take Mike Davis as my second running back off the board, and I feel pretty awesome about that. He's not a sexy pick, and he's only going to be able to do so much, I think, this season, but I feel pretty confident he's going to finish in the top 24 just based on volume alone. They haven't added anyone yet to make me think otherwise, and now we're at the point where I don't know that it's going to happen. So I feel pretty good about Mike Davis this year just based on pure volume. He was fine last season there in Carolina when they needed him. I think he'll be fine again. I think he'll get some passing work, and he'll get the goal line carries, all of the stuff. Might not be crazy effective, but I think he will be good enough. And I feel great knowing that at quarterback and at wide receiver, my roster is pretty solid. So having Mike Davis as my second running back is safe enough for me when I know my other positions are really good. So I took Mike Davis, Michael Thomas went, Javonte Williams, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Noah Fant. And so here I am in the 7th round. Got a few interesting players. So I'm interested in Chase Edmonds. That was one of the running backs I was hoping would fall to me last round, and he's still there. James Robinson is also still there. I'm still considering how to view James Robinson in light of the Travis Etienne news, he's not a top 10 running back. I don't think that by any means. But can he finish in the top 15 again? Maybe. I don't think I'm projecting it, and I definitely don't have him ranked that way. Obviously, I would have taken him over Mike Davis had I thought that. But he's a really interesting pick, and so it's between him and Chase Edmonds. I think they're probably back-to-back in my rankings. That's a tough choice. And really after them, as far as running back goes, there's just not a lot left. So because my wide receivers I feel like are fantastic, I don't want to take a shot on Chase Claypool here, who I love. Devontae Smith, I really like Devontae Smith as well. Love Justin Fields as an option there. Trey Lance too, they're not getting back to me. Man, this one's tough, but I think I have to shore up my running back and get some extra depth here. So I'm gonna go James Robinson over Chase Edmonds. I'm not confident that that's gonna pay off, but I think I like James Robinson's skill set a little more than Chase Edmonds as far as being able to be a consistent fantasy contributor. Chase Edmonds is kind of that smaller back. He's going to play the passing role. I just don't know how big of a role. I don't know what James Conner is going to do to him there in Arizona, whereas James Robinson, we saw what he was last year, and I think he'll get some similar workload, not nearly as much, but it'll be reflective of what he was doing last season as a starter. So Odell Beckham goes at 705, Chase Claypool, Justin Fields, Raheem Mostert, Chase Edmonds, DJ Chark, Juju Smith-Schuster, Dallas Goedert, Cortland Sutton, Devontae Smith, Tua Tagovailoa, Jerry Jeudy, Melvin Gordon, Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, Trey Lance. Oh, the heartbreak. Trey Lance gets stolen out from under me. One pick before. I didn't think he would make it, but then he almost did. So that's pretty sad. But let's look at the board here and see what we have. Fitzmagic is there, and that's interesting. Definitely an interesting player there. As far as the quarterbacks left, that's kind of who I'm interested in. Trey Sermon is somewhat interesting, but I feel pretty good at running back now. I feel like I've sunk a decent amount of capital in there. Robbie Anderson, I love Robbie this year. Let's see, thinking tight end, but I think one of those guys could fall to me. I like Logan Thomas a lot. And Robert Tonyan, so I don't think I need to pull the trigger on either one of them, and maybe one of them will get back to me. Laviska Shenault there is probably where I'm going to go. Super high on Laviska this year. I know I just took a Jacksonville player in James Robinson, but I think that's going to be okay. Look, I was high on Laviska Shenault before the Travis Etienne injury, and now that has happened, I think his role is just set in stone. He is going to be the player. I think he's going to be one of the higher contributing wide receivers, but he's also going to get some work out of the backfield. We knew that was going to be the case no matter what, but now with Etienne gone, I think it's going to increase even more. So a lot of those passing down work that we thought Etienne would get, I think a lot of that's going to shift to Laviska because of what his skill set is as a receiver, but also having played running back before. I think he could be a really interesting player this year, and I'm pretty excited about him. So happy to grab him there in the 8th and feel fantastic about my wide receivers. Ronald Jones goes, Deshaun Watson, Deebo Samuel, Trey Sermon, Daniel Jones, Robbie Anderson. And so both of those tight ends have fallen to me, and I think that's probably where I'm going to go. So it's between Logan Thomas and Robert Tonyan, and I love Logan Thomas, but I think I like Robert Tonyan just a little bit more because Aaron Rodgers, such a good quarterback. I think there's going to be so many opportunities for touchdowns, and so I'm going to go ahead and take that upside there. We've seen him put up a 3-touchdown game last year, so those kind of things are in the cards for Robert Tonyan. So I'm just going to go ahead, take that upside. I don't see that happening as much for Logan Thomas. Terry McLaurin's there, Curtis Samuel's there, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick. It's just not going to be as big of a role, whereas Robert Tonyan really only competing with Devontae Adams. Yeah, that's a pretty big competition, but as far as the other weapons, I like the situation there in Green Bay a little bit more. So Damian Harris goes, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd, Jalen Waddle, Michael Carter, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Leonard Fournette, Mike Gesicki, Will Fuller, Logan Thomas, Mike Williams, Antonio Brown, David Johnson, Curtis Samuel, James Conner, Tyler Higbee. Now here I am, and there's obviously a couple quarterbacks available. I actually am getting excited about Zach Wilson. That's an interesting possibility here. Let's see who's left as far as quarterbacks that I actually like. So I like Zach Wilson. I don't hate Big Ben. Jameis Winston is okay. Mac Jones is interesting. But then we get into, so after the quarterbacks that I do like here, it starts to dry up pretty quick. And one thing I know that in these Superflex drafts, I don't want my quarterback depth to be an NFL team's quarterback depth, if that makes sense. So I don't want backups on my bench necessarily. I want starters because they are crazy valuable in trades if needed, if one of them starts to blow up, or they're ready for me to play them when I need them. I don't want to be left in the dust if 45-year-old Tom Brady gets injured, for example. So because I feel really safe with Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, players that I know their role, I know their offenses, we have a lot of credibility to both of them, I'm going to take a shot here on Zach Wilson. He's been probably my lowest quarterback in the offseason as far as like fantasy outlook from this rookie class. Maybe him and Mac Jones really. But this preseason hype that has been going around, I'm buying into it a little bit. He seems to look really, really good, really confident out there, and that is what's going to lead to fantasy success for him because of his skill set. He's got a big arm. He can run around and make some crazy throws. That's what's going to give him success in as far as like a rookie fantasy season. Him going out there, being confident, not being afraid, and just chucking the ball around. So grab Zach Wilson here, somebody that we know is a starter for an NFL team and that I can have and some faith in as my QB3. All right, Zach Moss goes, Jarvis Landry, Irv Smith, Kenyon Drake, Michael Pittman, Evan Engram. And now here we are. Those quarterbacks are all still available, so that's an option. I could take my fourth quarterback here, but I don't really want to do that. So let's scroll. Let's look who's available. Darnell Mooney. I love Darnell Mooney. I think he's going to be an awesome player, and that's probably who I'm going to take here because no one else really makes me excited. We're getting to the point where it's like the backup running backs, and I don't mind taking them, but I don't really want one here when I have a wide receiver that I'm excited about available. So let's grab Darnell Mooney, Marquise Brown, A.J. Dillon, Nyheim Hines, Rob Gronkowski, Corey Davis, Michael Gallup, Elijah Moore, Devin Singletary, Gus Edwards, Tony Pollard, Jonnu Smith, Devontae Parker, Russell Gage, Hunter Henry, Rashad Bateman, Marvin Jones. And we are back on the board here. All of those quarterbacks still there. Big Ben, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston, all of them are available. But to go along with them, it's some of the backup running backs, Jamal Williams, Phillip Lindsay, J.D. McKissick. As far as wide receivers, we're getting into the questionable wide receiver rooms, so we don't really know how the Las Vegas wide receivers are going to shake out. We don't really know what New England's going to look like. So we've got Nelson Aguilar, Henry Ruggs. Let's see, what do we need? Rondale Moore is here, and that's really interesting for me, but I think he could fall and make it back to me. So I'm going to wait one more round on him and try to get a player that I feel a little more confident in, and I think I'm actually going to take my fourth quarterback, and then I can just be done with this position. I can have my depth and be confident in my roster here. So let's go ahead. Let's take Big Ben. Worst case scenario, one of those guys gets traded and I get to sell high a little bit on them. Like if Big Ben comes out and he's great, I can sell him in a trade. And I know I don't want to be drafting with that, for that reason, but it's something to keep in mind, I think, in these leagues because the quarterbacks are so valuable, and sometimes players just don't prioritize it, and then they end up hurting because a running back gets hurt or something like that. I'm going to take Rondale Moore here. I've talked about him a lot on the podcast, so go ahead and check out our late round picks there. I think that's where we talk the most about Rondale Moore. Coming in as a rookie in Arizona. He came from Purdue University, where he was electric with the ball in his hands, and I kind of I am anticipating similar things from him in the NFL. Big play upside, I think. I'm really, really excited for what he is going to be. Alexander Madison goes next. Nelson Aguilar, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Henry Ruggs, Adam Troutman, Kenneth Gainwell, McCole Hardman, Cole Beasley, Chuba Hubbard, Latavius Murray, Devontae Booker, Cole Kmet, Tyquan Smith, Jacoby Myers, Terrace Marshall Jr., Giovanni Bernard. I'm here with my second to last pick. We are not taking any more quarterbacks. We've got a couple interesting kind of dart throw wide receivers left on the board. Some running backs that are just pure backup value, but let's see, I've got 3 running backs. I wouldn't mind having one more just to have a little bit of extra depth on my bench. But I just don't love any of these names, so I think I'm going to pass on them. Nobody there is somebody that I'm excited about. Let's look at the tight ends. Is there anybody here that I am interested in having? Nope, I don't think any of them are worth drafting at this point. Let's look wide receiver. Yeah, this is where we are going to be probably for the last couple rounds here. So I like Bryan Edwards. I like what I've heard from camp. I actually heard some good things coming out of his college career as well, heading into last year's draft. It didn't really come to fruition last year, but it could this season. It could be where he steps up, takes that step forward. So let's go ahead. Let's take the dart throw there on Bryan Edwards, and we'll see who makes it back to us. Paris Campbell, Christian Kirk, Tevin Coleman, Rashad Penny, Jalen Reagor, Ramondre Stevenson. Some of the last round picks that I like to take. I like Jamison Crowder here. That's probably where I'm going to go. Donovan Peoples-Jones is really interesting as a wide receiver there in Cleveland. I think Crowder probably has the higher probability of being useful. We've seen him be good for the last couple seasons, and he's super up and down, but he has a defined role there in that offense. And even though they've got a rookie quarterback, he could still come in and be, the number 1 or the number 2 target there in New York. Probably not the number 1. I think that's pretty locked in to be Corey Davis. But it could be Jamison Crowder there next. He's going to play out of the slot. He's going to be utilized. Pretty safe option, I think, to get in the last round. Somebody you can throw in a pinch if needed. So I took Jamison Crowder, Darrell Williams, Austin Hooper, Sterling Shepard, Zach Ertz, James White, Marlon Mack, Javian Hawkins, and Gabriel Davis to finish the draft. So there we go. There is the draft board. Take a look at what we have. Let's see. My teams: quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, Zach Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger. Running backs, Antonio Gibson, Mike Davis, James Robinson. Wide receivers, Calvin Ridley, CeeDee Lamb, Laviska Shenault, Darnell Mooney, Rondale Moore, Bryan Edwards, and Jamison Crowder. I feel like I'm really strong in a lot of positions. I feel great about quarterback and wide receiver. I think I have fantastic depth there. I think I have some really solid players. I feel good about the later picks that I took, even being able to step up and provide great value at where I took them. Tight end, I feel fine with Robert Tonyan. I have no problem with that. Would have liked to get somebody, as a backup. Maybe I should have taken Cole Kmet there, in the 13th round or whatever, but I'm totally fine with Robert Tonyan. I think he's going to be good this season, so I think I can plug and play him and not really have to worry about it, which is where I would love to be, and it's where I'm really trying to be walking out of every draft of this year, is just not having to worry about my tight ends. But it's not been happening as much as I wish, and running back really is where I'm going to struggle the most, I think. I love Antonio Gibson. I do believe he is a top 12 running back, but I think there's a little bit of an upside problem there. I don't know how much he can really do as far as finishing, a top 5 guy. With J.D. McKissick there, I think that role, that just might not be in the cards for him. Mike Davis, though, getting him there to be my second running back, I think made a world of difference on my team. James Robinson, I think, will be a really, really solid bench play. So there it is. There's my team. There is the draft. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope that helps. If you have any questions about picks I made or Superflex strategies in general, go ahead, leave a comment. We'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, check out the podcast, First Read Fantasy Football Podcast. We are releasing weekly episodes in the off season, and then once the season gets started, we're going to ramp that up a little bit. So thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you guys later. Remember, we are First Read Fantasy Football. We are fantasy football for average folks. Thanks.